Prior to the President's cabinet announcement on Sunday evening, the Northwest University Business School released the latest reading of the Policy Uncertainty Index last Wednesday. The Policy Uncertainty Index is now a hot 68.3%, up from 65.8 in the previous quarter. We speak to Professor Raymond Parsons at the Northwest University of Potchefstroom School of Business about how this latest announcement will impact the index. Professor Parsons, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on Daytime Update. Firstly, what do we attribute this increase to?
Well, good afternoon to you, and this is a good day in which to be talking to you about the South African economy in the light of what the President announced last night. And as far as our index is concerned, that was for the second quarter of the year, where clearly the uncertainties around the election, leading up to the election, had quite a dominant role to play in the fact that that index rose. But now we've moved into the third quarter, and as I've said, with much better news. And as you know from the announcement last night about the new cabinet, we've had very good market reaction, both globally and domestically, that the business community in South Africa has reacted very well to the new cabinet. For example, the Financial Times in London has overnight written a very strong and positive article about the prospects for South Africa under a new administration, as also did the London Economist. So I think expectations have been created, and that's where we start off now. And I think the big challenge now is, of course, to ensure that the new cabinet will meet what the President himself said was his point of departure last night, and that is that he and the new cabinet are dedicated to ensuring a rapid, inclusive economic growth in South Africa at a much higher level. That is the point of departure, and all other roads through the different ministers will lead through that goal. And that's an urgent matter because quite clearly, whatever the other magnitude of the challenges we face, if we can't get a higher growth rate, if we can't get the job-rich growth that we want, we will not be able to build a bigger, stronger, and better economy. So that's the urgent priority, and a lot of the mandate that has been given to the new cabinet by the electorate simply says, you have an instruction to now deliver. And I think that's the bottom line of where we now go with our new cabinet.
And considering all that you've just said now as well, Professor Parsons, does that mean that moving forward, we could look forward to it even going higher? Because the highest policy uncertainty index ever seen was at 76.2%, and that was around a year ago. Can we then expect that we'll get to that 76.2 and beyond mark?
No, we must understand the lower the index, the better it is. It's in negative territory. And so quite clearly, as it gets lower, it moves below the 50 point. That is the baseline. And then, of course, it moves into positive territory. And that's the climate that you want the GNU and the new cabinet to create, an environment in which investor confidence is boosted, that we can get growth going, that we can implement what we've said we would do. That's, I think, if I had to call this cabinet something, I'd call it an implementation cabinet. That's the top of its agenda, and it doesn't need to start with a clean sheet of paper. There are a number of issues, a number of platforms on the table, such as Operation Vulindlela, such as the cooperation between government and business in the crucial areas of energy, logistics, and crime and corruption, where there's a lot of unfinished business that needs to be expedited in a way that produces results. There's the National Development Plan, which was updated a year ago, and which most of the political parties who are in the government of national unity have supported in the past. So there are platforms that can be used to expedite the areas of agreement and, above all, the areas of action. Because I would also say that the message from the whole electorate in this election has been, we don't want more talking, we want action, and we want visible outcomes. And that is really the mandate that has to be implemented now by the president and the new cabinet.
What does the figure going down depend on? Should the GNU not be as successful as we're hoping that it would be, does that then affect this figure as well?
Well, I think that is, I think we all should back this cabinet. We really ought to say we want it to succeed. Yes, there may be some risks. Obviously, there are still political risks. There's still some uncertainties. But the direction is correct. The commitment is correct. And it will call not only for political leadership to ensure that the GNU and the cabinet will work together in order to implement what has to be done. The important point is that, as the president said, and as I want to emphasize again, the point of departure is that he wants and the country needs higher, inclusive economic growth that is job-rich and that will enable South Africa to address a number of other issues. Once it is growing more rapidly, we've turned the economy around and we've created the certainty of where we're going on the economic front. And in fact, I think there's the great potential that if it plays its cards well, the GNU cabinet can create a virtuous circle for South Africa, that the more you expedite the reforms, the economic and social reforms that you need, the more you find that uncertainty recedes, and thus there is more confidence growing in your economic prospects. So that's the vision that we hold out for our GNU cabinet, that playing their cards correctly, working together with the private sector in particular, because the big overarching challenge is delivery. And that's on a number of fronts, not just the potholes, it's jobs, it's a whole number of issues. That commitment and those immediate priorities that have been identified by the president on behalf of the GNU and its cabinet, making that happen and doing so in conjunction with the private sector and, of course, civil society, we can turn the situation around. This is the best opportunity we have created for South Africa to not only do things differently, but to do them much better.
Professor Parsons, thank you so much for joining us on Daytime Update this afternoon. Really appreciate it.